Was this the evolution of thrash? Back in the 80s, RobbFlynn was one of the major players in the creation of thrash metal. He was part of two of the most important thrash metal bands of our time, but then, on one fateful night, he happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, leading to an event that would cause him to abandon his band and take his music in a new direction. This is the story of Burn My Eyes by Machine Head. Let's start with some history. I'm going to go back a few years because this band and their main member has his roots in some of the most important thrash bands of the Bay Area. So RobbFlynn got his first gig when he was a senior in high school. The name of the band was Forbidden Evil, who later became known as Forbidden. He spent 2 years with this band from 1985 to 1987. He would leave the band before they released their debut album, but he has 4 songs credited to him that was released on that album, which was called Forbidden Evil from 1988. When he left Forbidden, he joined another Bay Area band that was one of the most important thrash bands of that time. That band was called Vio-lence. He played in that band for a few years and played on their only 3 full studio albums, which were Eternal Nightmare from 1988, Oppressing the Masses from 1990, and Nothing to Gain from 1993. He also played with another well-known guitarist from the thrash metal scene, who was Phil DeMille, who you may have heard that name recently because he played on the most recent albums by Kerry King and Category 7. Now you may be wondering, why did RobbFlynn leave Vio-lence? Well, the story begins sometime around 1991. He wanted to start a side project with his roommate, whose name was Deuce. But his Vio-lence bandmates were pissed off about that. So that made him consider leaving the group. But it wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back. One night, the band was booked to play a local club, but then Rob, Deuce, and another friend got into a fight at a convenience store parking lot. So what happened was that Rob's friend got into a fight with his big white guy. At first, Rob and Deuce were just watching. Then 2 black girls come over to see what's going on. After that, 3 guys in a gang with cars show up and they say, "What are you doing messing with our girls?" So then the guys start to fight. But it was 2 guys against 14 of them, and Rob and his friend got beaten up. Afterwards, the gang found out who RobbFlynn was, so they start to make death threats. So for that reason, RobbFlynn decided not to play with the band Vio-lence anymore because he feared for his life. So that was when RobbFlynn started his new band, Machine Head. Now, some people thought it was named after the Deep Purple album, but according to RobbFlynn, he said he just came up with it because it sounded cool. Then he got together with a guitar player named Logan Mader and drummer Tony Costanza. His roommate sold drugs to help him fund his new band. They later decided they wanted to get a better drummer, so Tony Costanza left the band and they found Chris Contos. The band then made a demo tape that cost them only $800. This demo tape caught the attention of an executive at Roadrunner Records, and the band was signed. Now it's time for the band to write Burn My Eyes. The album was released on August 9th, 1994 via Roadrunner Records and was produced by Colin Richardson. This album is now celebrating 30 years. A lot of the songs were written by RobbFlynn and Adam Deuce. Their inspiration came from being pissed off about their situation with the band Vio-lence, as well as they wrote other songs about drugs. So for example, the song I'm Your God Now is about drug abuse and includes the line, "So drink up, so shoot in, 'cause I'll make this feeling end. I built you this narcotic shell, I crucified you in your hell." This album also features some songs that were based on current events at the time. For example, the song Davidian was based on the Waco siege of 1993. This was when there was this famous news story about a religious cult called the Branch Davidians, and one day agents from both the U.S. and federal government and the Texas state government raided the compound, but then a fire broke out in the compound, killing about 78 people, and some of them were children. So it was this big controversy. People were not sure how the fire started. Then there was a song called Realize, 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 and it was about the Los Angeles Riots following the acquittal of Los Angeles police officers after being beaten by Rodney King, and it was recorded on a videotape. Some of the other songs addressed different issues such as physical and mental abuse. Songs such as None But My Own and The Rage to Overcome. And there was a song where the band expressed their disapproval of people in religion who make a profit. The name of that song is called Death Church. As for the music, it was like a cross between Bay Area thrash and groove metal, like Pantera. In other words, it has a very 90s sound. What's also interesting is that a lot of the guitars almost sound like machines. I don't know if it's related to the band being named Machine Head, but they use a lot of harmonics in their songs, and I feel it gives it more of a machine-like quality to the sound. This machine-like sound is very apparent in the track called Davidian, which has somewhat of a slow pace that builds up with guitar riffs that are reminiscent of Bay Area thrash and some very angry-sounding vocals. Another great aspect of this album is the bass guitar. The song Old has an awesome bass intro that goes into a guitar riff. It sounds like a precursor to the nu metal of the late 90s. The song Old also has an awesome chorus, and that makes the song very memorable. Some songs are more leaning towards thrash metal. For example, the song A Thousand Lies had a slow building atmospheric intro that goes into some heavy chugging riffs. RobbFlynn's vocals are almost like rapping, so it also gives it a slight nu metal feel. Then there's part at the 5-minute and 35-second mark when RobbFlynn says slow, and then the band slows down the rhythm. Then the song None But My Own is filled with lots of different sounds, like the thick bass guitar, or the guitar riffs filled with harmonics. The softer parts of the verses even reminded me of the band Nirvana, like their early days. So there was even a bit of a grunge sound in there. The drumming is also great in this album. The song The Rage to Overcome has one of the best drum intros from any album released this year. Then there was the incredible breakdown that comes at around the 3-minute mark. And this band knew how to create haunting atmospheres. Just listen to the intro to the song Death Church. They were able to create a haunting atmosphere with interesting guitar riffs and harmonics. This can also be heard on the arpeggiated guitars in the intro on the song A Nation on Fire. But don't think this album is just atmospheric music, because they know how to go hard. So for example, on this particular song, A Nation on Fire, at about like the 4-minute or 4.5 minutes, they go just like full thrash, they move at full speed, and they also have a groove metal sound in this album. So the song Blood for Blood has a very distinct Pantera type of sound. I thought it was one of the more groove metal oriented ones. The last track in the album is called Block, and I think it shows off some of the great drumming that can be heard throughout the album. So what do I think? Is this the most important album in the evolution of thrash? I would say it's one of them. I think it was more important back in 1994 than it is today, because Machine Heads have released better albums over the years, but for 1994, I think it was important because it influenced so many bands at that time. So that's my answer. Let me know your answer in the comments. I was on an episode of Is It That Bad? It was on the Chill Dude on the Couches channel, and we talked about this album. So I'm going to stick that one right there. This way you can hear more details about what other people think of this album. And we talk about, or we discuss, like, is it really that bad? So please check that out. Thanks for watching. Give this video a like, subscribe, all that stuff. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. I'll see you in the next one.